All right, we're gonna be making and filling out a unit circle from scratch. I have a lot of extra stuff going on the unit circle that I like to use, so I'm gonna start there. This is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. At the bottom, I have this XY coordinate because I like to remember that cosine is in the X position and sine is in the Y position. When it comes to these positives and negatives, everybody's positive in the first quadrant. Sine is the Y value, it's positive in the second quadrant. Cosine is the X value, it's positive in the fourth quadrant. And tangent is when you divide them. So actually 2 negatives makes a positive. That's why tangent's positive in the third quadrant. Negatives, well, when it comes to these negatives, it's just the opposite of the other two. That would be 3 and 4. That would be 2 and 3. That would be 2 and 4. So already we've started it off and we've written down a bunch of information that helps us. It's not exactly information on the unit circle, but it's information about the unit circle. So if we want to actually fill in stuff that's on the unit circle, you just kind of want to start somewhere and just kind of work kind of one layer at a time. The next place I like to go is the quadrantals. Over here to 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, 0, negative 1. Again, those just come from the X values and the Y values, so nothing too crazy on those. Next, we're getting pretty near to the end. We either want to do the inside angles or the outside coordinates with the fractions, with the divided by 2, with the square root 2, that kind of stuff. You can go either way. I guess I'll go with the inside degrees first. So looking in this first quadrant, it's going to go from 0 to 90. Right in the middle is 45. And then these are the 30 and 60 from a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Now we also talked last time we did this about the patterns that it goes up 30, up 15, up 15, up 30. So that's another way you can kind of continue around, that it should be 30 to get you to 120, 30 plus 90, and then it should be 135 because you add 15, and then you add another 15 and you get to 150. 180 is at halfway around, or is at a single pi if you want to think about it for radians. Add 30 to 10. Add 15 to 25, add another 15 to 40, and then we're going to get to 270, 300, 315, 330, 360. Now we've done all of our angles, all of our degrees all the way around from 0 to 360. Not too bad. Now let's go ahead and get our coordinates. I like to start with getting some parentheses on there. Then I like to go for fractions. I like to say everything is divided by 2. We know that 45 is square root 2, square root 2. We just need to remember whether it's a 1 or a 3 so that we can get it, do the opposite, and then flip it. Some people like to remember that the sine of 30 is 1/2 because those are nice, nice, nice. Some people like to remember that the 30, the first gap there should be a 3. Either way, it goes square root 3, 1/2, 1/2, square root 3. Those are just the opposites. Just kind of switch the order. And of course, square root 2 when it comes to the 45. And when we get that far, all we need to do now is take those numbers and push them all over. Remember, you're allowed to go straight across. You're also allowed to go straight up and down. You're also allowed to go along the diagonal. So there's basically, once you get one quadrant, there's no excuse to miss the other ones. I'm going to go over here, parentheses, 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 parentheses. In this quadrant, not in the first quadrant anymore, we are going to have some negatives. If you already filled this out down here, you literally have the information for what is positive and what is negative, when and where. In that second quadrant, cosine becomes negative, which is our x value. So I'm going to put negatives before I even do anything, because I know that's a little bit something that could be missed. Make some fractions, divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2, square root 2, square root 2. In the 30 position, the 3 is in the x position and the 1 is in the y position. The 3 is in the x position, the 1 is in the y position. Flip it, 1, 3. Go down to the third quadrant, boom, 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 boom. Now in the third quadrant, negative x and negative y. So I'm gonna start it off by putting my negatives, because I know that is what I'm likely to miss. Trust me, as a teacher, these are a little bit annoying to grade, but I know where to start. Look at those negatives. Divide, 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 divide by 2, 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 square root 2, square root 2. The diagonal can be followed if you want to do that. You can go straight up and down. Remember, all of these have a 30 reference angle. That's why they're all the same. So for this one, again, the 3 is in the x position, square root 3, and the 1 is in the y position. Then flip it, 1 and square root 3. And we're basically finished here. Trying to not take too long, because I know we've done this before. Comma, comma, comma. Now we have a positive x and a negative y. So we should have negative on our sign values in the y position. Fraction, 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 fraction. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. The top numbers, square root 2, square root 2. And again, you can go straight up and down. You can go diagonal. The 3 is in the first position, and the 1, and the 1, and the 3. Most likely things you're going to miss are the negative signs or the 1 and 3 being flip-flopped one way or the other. So make sure you kind of get those in the correct spot. Now, well, that's what we're doing today. The only other thing that we kind of missed over this is the radians, which might be the thing that you are worst at. We know that this is 0 to pi to 2 pi. Now we know that here is pi halves. We know that here is 3 pi halves. But after this, we might be a little bit less kind of comfortable with what comes next. There's a couple different ways to do it, okay? All of these are going to be making fractions. Some people like to go in the first quadrant, and they like to say that this should be pi over 6, pi over 4, and pi over 3, because it makes this nice little 6, 4, 3, 2, a nice little countdown. And we skip over 5, which was a good point somebody made last week, mostly because dividing by 5 just doesn't really make a nice triangle. Okay, 180 divided by 5 is 36, which is like kind of a weird number. These numbers are much nicer. Now, another way to do this, if you don't want to kind of knock out all of quadrant 1, is to work on all the 45s. Pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, 5 pi over 4, and 7 pi over 4. Those are all the odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, because all the even numbers are just reducing, right? Right here, this is 2 out of 4, reduce it, you get 1/2. Right here, this is 4 out of 4, reduce it, you get 1. This is 6 out of 4, reduce it, and this is 8 out of 4, reduce it. So that's why the odd numbers are the only ones that show up. Then we can go to pi 6. And here's maybe another strategy. I don't know if we went over this last time. If we go to pi 6 next, which is our nice little 30, we can hit all the remaining gaps with pi 6. If they reduce, then reduce them. So up next, after 1 pi 6 could be 2 pi 6. And what is 2 divided by 6? It is 1/3. And that's kind of where your pi thirds comes from. That's another way to kind of work on it. Then we have 3 out of 6. Well, that's going to reduce. Then we're going to have 4 out of 6. And 4 out of 6 is going to be 2 pi thirds. Then this is going to be 5 out of 6. 6 out of 6 is going to reduce. This is going to be 7 out of 6. This is going to be 8 out of 6, but that reduces. 8 out of 6 makes 4 pi thirds. Then we're going to have, I forget where we're at, 9 out of 6, 10 out of 6, which is going to make 5 pi thirds, and finish with 11 pi sixths. Again, we've done this a few times. These radians might be where you struggle. I think we're pretty much good. That's your unit circle. Now, nice job.